Welcome to the Just Live podcast. I'm your host, Olivia Stevens, and I'm inviting you in on my personal journey of learning and discovering how to live a life with more connection, joy, and purpose. I'll be sitting down with people from all walks of life to dive into topics including trauma, mental health, mindfulness, the nuances of love and relationships, and much more. I hope these conversations empower you to expand on what serves you, release what doesn't, and just live. Welcome back to another episode of the Just Live podcast. I'm your host, Olivia Stevens, and in today's episode, I sit down with Tai Ha Sloan, a relationship coach who is on a mission to guide her clients in conquering their triggers and expressing their needs effectively in relationships. We dive into the nitty-gritty of communication and connection, and we discuss the delicate balance of expectations and self-regulation. ThaiHa sheds light on the significance of nurturing your inner child and how to achieve profound transformation through practices like somatic healing and releasing trapped emotions. She really drives home the idea that triggers can be turning points for healing, and working through them can expand not just the relationships around us, but more importantly, the one we have with ourselves. So I hope you enjoy this episode. Please share it if you do. Review it, rate it, subscribe, all that good stuff. So thank you, and I'll talk to you soon. So tell us who you are, what you do, and why you do it.
Thank you so much for having me, Olivia. My name is ThaiHa. It's pronounced like Thailand and haha put together. It's a strange one. I grew up in Hawaii on the Big Island on Oahu, and then I moved to California in 2013 for school. I went to school for mechanical engineering, and that didn't last very long in terms of staying in that field.
Yeah.
Now, I left the field after a year, being in it for a year out of college, and I did that 5 years ago. Just kept following my heart's compass, and I'm now a relationship coach, and I specialize with helping women master their triggers in their relationships and communicate clearly and regulate their nervous systems and all that good stuff.
Yeah, I found you on my Explore page where I do most of my searching and learning on Instagram, and one of your videos, I guess, went viral and just stuck out to me. And it was like a role play between, yourself and your boyfriend, but it was you. And it was just so relatable to, witness someone experiencing a trigger in real time, and then to see you break it down on how to address it, in a healthy way versus responding kind of from that wounded place. So when someone comes to you to start kind of working with you as a coach, what does that look like?
Well, I have two ways that I support people right now. I don't do as much one-on-one anymore just because I'm here to help as many people as possible and I have limited time. So I created something called the Rise program, which is like everything that I've ever done and everything that I use every day put into a really clear, concise, process-oriented program. It's a group program where you get lessons that come out to you each week that build upon the last. The method that you learn is called the RISE method, and you'll learn how to regulate, repair, and rewrite, which addresses your mind, body, and soul so that each part of you gets on board rather than, trying to think positively, but then your body fighting you and ping-ponging you back and forth between wanting to feel better, but then not being able to. So I believe that working on all aspects of the system is really important for sustainable transformation. So that's what this program is really focused around, and not only teaching you stuff, but really the meat of it is helping you cultivate the daily habits that are necessary to feel safe, secure, regulated, fulfilled in your life. I always say it's, you can't expect to go to the gym for a week or a month and then stop and then stay in shape. Like, that's just not how it works. It's about how you choose to show up every single day that dictates how you feel and your life.
Yeah.
So that's really my desire, is to help people with those habits.
That's great. I think a lot of us are kind of aware in what's happening in a relationship. Like some of the time we're self-aware in some habits that maybe we want to change or programs that we need to work on. But knowing what to do from that point, like having the self-awareness, but then knowing, well, what do I implement now? Like, how do I make these changes? And it sounds like your program, getting, weekly kind of protocols and things to implement in your life and habits to start working towards is helpful in making some of those changes because it can be
Mm-hmm.
overwhelming. I mean, I'm sure a lot of your clients feel like they come to you, they can recognize, ways in which they show up that aren't serving them in their relationships, but really not knowing where to start or how to
Right.
make the changes and be consistent in, changing the patterns that aren't serving them.
Totally. Yeah, that's a big challenge that people come up against, because everything works to some extent, right? Like if you have an intention to feel better, like you'll find stuff that can help you, but a lot of the time it's like one thing over here, one thing over here, mindset work and then emotional work. And I wanted to put it as clear. I think it's my engineering brain
Mm.
that really supported me in creating this and in having this come through me, because that step by step and having it all work together and build upon itself, right? We go through week 1, we learn regulate. You learn how to clear out those trapped emotions and regulate your nervous system. Week 2, we learn repair. Okay, now that we've done that, how do you become your own source of fulfillment and love? And week 3, we do rewrite. How do you get your mind on board with thinking the way that you want to think? And then we kind of just get more and more nuanced in that kind of order, because really they're all the same thing. But we have to address all parts, not just one at a time, if that makes sense. So
Yeah.
I'm pretty obsessed with the way that it's unfolded.
Yeah, and I feel like too, I personally get overwhelmed with all the advice and kind of strategies that I'm like seeing or consuming because it feels like a lot of um, these things aren't really getting to the root cause. It's more
Mm,
kind of maybe some regulation in the moment, or I feel like there's so many things coming at me and tactics and things I could be doing that is almost causing more dysregulation, feeling like I'm trying to do all these things or, for instance, a morning routine that's gonna like start the day right. I'm like, oh, I need to like stick my ice in or my face in ice, and then I gotta sunlight, and then I gotta step on some grass, and then I gotta meditate, and then I should journal. And I'm
yeah.
like, whoa, like slow down a little bit. What
Yeah.
if people feel like they're overwhelmed in that sense, what kind of strategies do you have to kind of clear some space, so to speak, and find like what works for them?
Yeah, great question. Um, Something that I always remember is like 5 years ago, when I was still in engineering, but trying to like do my first stage of personal development. Like I was not super in a good place mentally, and I knew I needed to do stuff for myself. And I came back from this 9-week backpacking trip in Southeast Asia after college, and I was like
Yeah.
feeling kind of awakened to like, whoa, meditation could be really good for me, but it's so hard. And for literally a year, I tried to do it, and I would do maybe 5 minutes twice a week for that whole year. And I would always try to do it at nighttime, and it never really stuck. So I just want to acknowledge that if you're struggling, like that's a part of the journey. You're not doing anything wrong.
Yeah.
Um, and there's also like little tips that can really help you make it easier on yourself, because when we have so much information on what we could be doing, what we should be doing, and what's the best things to do, we can think we have to do all of it. And
Yeah.
so I'll tell my clients to choose one thing. If you're not doing anything right now, do not add 5 things.
Yeah.
Choose one thing and make it a stretchy goal, but something that you know is attainable. So, like for the next 7 days, if you've never meditated before, maybe your goal is to simply do it 2 times for 5 minutes or three
Mhm.
times for 5 minutes throughout that week, because you need that positive reinforcement to keep going.
Yeah.
If you fail at your original, goal, you're not going to want to feel that way again. So you're likely going to not want to try again. So setting those attainable goals and then building upon that, right? I finally realized, okay, I need to meditate in the morning before I have any chance of like resisting all day long and then being too tired. And I started with only 5 minutes of that. And then I added on, okay, now 5 minutes of journaling after that. And then I continued to increase it. And now I have like an hour to hour and a half long morning routine that I can't not do most of the days because I just feel so good doing it. Again, it's a lifelong journey. We're doing
Yeah.
this not to do it. We're doing this for the benefits for the rest of our lives. So kind of zooming out to that picture too, I think can really help, because you don't want to burn yourself out with your morning routine. That's like not the goal,
It defeats the purpose, right?
Right.
But it is
Yeah.
interesting. I know I still don't have a completely consistent meditation practice, but I do try to take time first thing in the morning to really kind of prime my mind. And I try different things. I'm still like you said, it takes some time to like really learn and like find what's right for you. But I do always feel better. I feel like my mind is clearer. I feel like my frequency is like higher. Like I just feel like I'm like up here,
Mm-hmm.
versus when you grab your phone immediately and there's an email or you start scrolling. And I've even like enjoyed utilizing some of the apps that like block social media completely so you're not tempted, because a lot of people are just we're so addicted to like getting on and then you can't stop.
Totally. 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 Yeah. There's a very palpable different feeling. Like this morning, we woke up late and later. Um, and I still did my like morning movement, but I didn't do my other things. And I also have a very big pull to, get to work right away.
Yeah.
And when I do that, it's like ramping the nervous system up
Hmm.
first thing, which sets the tone for the rest of the day typically, compared to choosing to give yourself that love and space. And then, that
Yeah.
energy can infuse the rest of your day without even ever having to think about, meditating or whatever for the rest of the day.
Yeah, it really does like put the day in motion and kind of shifts the trajectory, at least energetically. And I feel like once you kind of get on that wheel, it's hard to get off. If you're feeling anxious or rushed, then you're like rushing into something else. And then you might, like for some of your videos, be responding to a partner in a way that isn't aligned or healthy and is coming from, a place of irritation that's probably some trigger that needs to be healed. So
Yeah.
switching gears to some of your videos, like I mentioned before, they're so relatable and like very easy to watch it and be like, oh wow, like I need to start implementing some of these in the way I respond. But it's really hard, I
Mm.
feel, in the moment to do that. I mean, what are some tips as far as being able to like hit the pause button on your reactions and not like
Mm-hmm.
immediately jumping down your partner's throat for not doing the dishes or making
Mm-hmm.
the bed or
Mm-hmm.
things like that. Like,
Yeah.
how do we, I mean, the videos are great, but then I'm also like, how do I really pause in the moment? Because I just feel like sometimes reactions just come like instantly.
Yeah, totally. Somebody just asked this in Grounded, my membership, and I went into detail about it because it might not be what you think,
Hmm.
because if you try to work on it in the moment, it's like, imagine going to the gym after, not really going to the gym very much and trying to lift a 100-pound dumbbell right away.
Yeah,
Like, that's not
it's
really
gonna
how
work.
that works. So, back to this morning routine and self care practice concepts we were talking about, to me, that is why I non-negotiably spend an hour with myself every morning before doing anything else. So I can fuel my mental, emotional, spiritual, physical body so that I have the capacity to handle challenging experiences that life inevitably brings us. Like, I would not be able to respond the way that I do with so much spaciousness, with so much ground in the heat of the moment if I didn't practice
Yeah.
off the court, you know? So that's why so much of what I teach my clients is how to cultivate those habits so that you can show up for yourself, which is equally for everyone else,
Yeah.
but learn how to prioritize that. Just like, we've been taught to prioritize going to the gym or working out. Why are we not doing that for our other aspects of ourselves? Like, it's equally as important.
That's a great
So
question.
that's kind of what I say is it's not, if we keep trying to work on it in the heat of the moment, you're going
Yeah.
to feel frustrated all the time.
So practicing and kind of growing a little bit of a resistance, like even if you take one extra second to respond or take one deep breath in the moment. And like, I think the more you do it, the more your body then also recognizes it's kind of like muscle memory almost. Like, okay, like I've taken more time before responding and your body gets used to that. And if you are in like a meditation practice and learning to work with your breath and to tune in, then it does become easier and easier.
Right, right. Because let's say, sometimes you'll have a better opportunity or better chance, I should say, to take a little extra time before responding in the heat of the moment if it's not as intense of a trigger. But
Yeah.
when does it matter the most? When it's really intense, right? Because that's what sends us off, sends, us fueling the fire and then things blowing up into unnecessary proportion. So practices like meditation, like breath work, I view meditation as learning how to gain control of your own mind and awareness so that your thoughts don't control you, your automatic programming doesn't control you. You get to choose where you focus your attention. Breath work helps me get in touch with the felt sense of my body, right? And the emotional contractions and the subtle, right? The more aware we can become of our subtle emotional contractions, the more we can give ourselves what we need and not let it blow up,
Right.
bigger than it needs to be. So breathwork helps me feel and bring more awareness to my body and release stuck energy. The less stuck energy is in our systems, the less we feel like we're going to pop at any certain
Yeah.
trigger. So again, I say like that's the most important thing is learning how to give yourself that space, find the tools that work for you to become present, to expand your awareness, to hold yourself and not get like taken over by your emotions and your thoughts, which is what we all typically have done throughout our lives because we're just not taught how to
No.
do this.
And I read something the other day. It was like, yeah, we're not taught how to like communicate effectively or express our emotions, but we're taught algebra too, and it's like, when have we
Right.
needed that?
Right. Yeah.
Um, but I do want to talk a little bit more about releasing the emotions,
Mm-hmm.
because you mentioned that a lot. Can you kind of expand on that and describe the process of actually like tuning into where the emotion is in your body? I know that you've said like your body kind of expresses what your mind suppresses. So if you're
Mm-hmm.
not really feeling your emotions, then they are getting trapped and they are going to show up later.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Okay. So my one of my specialties is called somatic healing.
Mm,
Somatic healing is just learning how to feel through and release trapped energy that gets stuck because we are a physical body, but there's also energies that can arise that we can't see, but we
mhm,
can feel. And there's also a difference between thinking about an emotion, which is all up here in your mind,
mhm,
and actually feeling the emotion in your body. And the only way to actually release the emotion is to feel it in your body, not just think about, oh, I'm sad. Why did that happen? That shouldn't have happened. What can I do about it to make it not happen anymore? Like that actually doesn't process the emotion. That's why so many people
Yeah.
are looping all the time and not actually releasing, even though they're still feeling the discomfort. So if you imagine every single time in your life that you felt something uncomfortable and then you avoided feeling it by going on social media, or you tried to soothe loneliness by um, going on a dating app, or went to the fridge to avoid feeling bored, whatever your thing is,
Yeah.
right? All of those uncomfortable emotions that we avoid feeling, they have to go somewhere. And when they don't have the ability to flow out of you, which just like they flow fully out of children, right? They will go deep into an emotion and then 5 minutes later, they are fully out of it. Like they're
Mm-hmm.
not thinking about what just happened anymore. They're just with the next moment and they're usually joyful and happy, right? That's called emotional fluidity. That's where an emotion can fully be processed through because they're leaning into it effortlessly. That's our natural way. We don't do that. So every time we don't do that, the emotion gets stuck in our emotional field, which we can't see, but it's here. It's why we're plagued with mental illness and all these anxieties and fears and overthinkers, chronic overthinkers. Like that's not, it's normal, but it's not natural. We shouldn't be that way. It's just we've forgotten how to process and release the emotion. So we have to learn how to unhook from our minds, stop analyzing, trying to figure things out, trying to understand, like that's all up here,
Mm-hmm.
and reconnect with our felt sense, which is actually feeling the same way you would feel a scrape on your knee in the location of your knee, right? You're not thinking about, oh, I have a scrape on my knee. What's that like? Like, blah, 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 blah. You're feeling it in your knee. Similarly, you feel emotions usually between the top of your head and the base of your spine, somewhere in your torso, your neck, your face sometimes. And so you can learn how to get connected to the sensation of like, whoa, this sadness feels like a block in my belly that is black and dark, and I can feel it in my belly. When you can feel those sensations without analyzing them, they will actually release on their own. But learning how to remember how to do that again is the
Mm-hmm.
challenging part because we've developed so many protective mechanisms through our conditioning that we shouldn't feel stuff.
Yeah.
Meanwhile,
Is
it's
that
getting
just
us stuck.
is us feeling like we can't feel or express things? I mean, has that just been a result of like conditioning, society growing up, maybe our parents being like, stop crying, or um,
Yeah,
when kids have tantrums, most of the times parents react poorly and they try to stop it.
right. Right.
So is that where that comes from? Is that why we're like so much in our heads and not in our bodies, because we felt like it wasn't maybe safe or accepted to like
Yeah.
express those things?
Yeah. So when we're like ages 0 to 7, we are coming into this world like a blank computer that is ready to download every single program
Hmm.
to understand how to function and live and survive. Where do we download those programs from? The people around us.
Yeah.
We're taught how to be. We come
Yeah.
into this world one way and then we're taught how to be. And then in order to ensure that we are safe, taken care of, loved, we develop these protective mechanisms to make sure we show up the way that we think we need to rather than what's really true for us. And it's nobody's fault because when parents are doing that, they've just learned that from somebody else. So it's kind of
Right.
this generational, societal um, pattern that is not helping us.
Yeah.
But I think we're all here and we're on the path, and all we can do is our best in taking care of our own stuff and then sharing what we learn with others. So, yeah.
Yes, that is what we need to do. Oh, um, I know I don't know if you have children or not, but I feel like there's going to be a lot of, and I think doing this work now helps, like leading up to if you decide to embark on that journey of parenthood. I think this is definitely helping. Learning to self-regulate and all of that is going to serve you well. Being a parent, being able to show up as best you can. But it's still
Yeah.
a daunting and scary thought. you know. Um,
Yeah. Yeah, I will say that doing this work, I always wanted to be a mom. I think I have five younger siblings, so I got
oh
my
wow.
full,
Yeah.
I was like ready to wait as long as possible. Once I started doing this work and healing, my generational patterning, I'm like, I'm obsessed with the idea of being a mom
Mm,
and loving my kids the way I'm learning to love my inner child. I think that's one of the coolest feelings to realize that I've learned how to love myself so much, and to share that and raise a child within that kind of energy
yeah.
is like, man, that child is going to be a rock star. I feel how much they're going to be set up for success just
Yeah.
with that.
I can imagine too that being able to bring that into your motherhood journey would also, in a sense, be even more healing for yourself.
Yeah,
It's like
totally.
being able to do that for your little one is also kind of like you're continuing to heal your own inner child because it's like a little you.
Yeah, totally. I
You,
think it's a mutually co-nourishing, beneficial
yeah,
experience. Win-win on all sides.
yeah. You talk about inner child work a little bit in your videos and like soothing like the little you. Can you go into more detail about kind of what that looks like? I mean, your videos show it, but like if I wanted to do inner child work kind of like on a consistent basis to really heal some wounds, what would that look like?
hmm Um, so when I do it, it's kind of become a natural way that I relate to myself now. Something that I use a lot is called internal family systems, and it's a way to map yourself and the different energies that show up within you and kind of different personalities that can show up within us at different times, right?
Okay.
Sometimes we're like in my work, I'm like a doer. I can get shit done. I can like work so hard. And then there's other times where I'm insecure and like feeling like I'm paralyzed and like, that these are different energies that show up. And so I've learned how to open my awareness and rest as simply like I am awareness of all of this. I am not actually ThaiHa. I am awareness that is
Okay.
aware of ThaiHa right now, and which ThaiHa is here basically, like which energy is
Mm.
here and what does that one need. So I'm again coming back to like meditation as a practice, breath work as a practice. It strengthens this ability to rest as awareness and not get so sucked into our own melodrama so much. And it doesn't have to be that intense if we can like realize that we are not these things that happen, right? We are not our thoughts, we are not our emotions.
Mhm.
So when I am relating to my inner child in that way, I I imagine her, any emotion that comes up, any thought that comes up that is uncomfortable, I imagine her as my daughter or my younger sister, or just, even closer. It's like it's me, but a younger version of me
Yeah.
that's separate from me. And I relate to her from that place. And then I feel her being related to, right, from a different perspective. Usually, what happens when we're triggered or whatever is we become the inner child.
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, I didn't get my needs met at one time, and you have to fix this for me, and I'm pissed at you, and blah, 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 blah. And that's just kind of reliving the pain that happened over and over again.
Yeah.
So you have to learn how to shift your vantage point of where you're viewing yourself from and give that part of you what she needs, whether from yourself or whether from a support system, so that the energy that she's feeling can process through and not just be revisited over and over again. Does that make
Yeah.
sense?
It does, and it resonates a lot because I feel like I get stuck in a cycle of becoming my emotions. And I
Right.
love the way that you said, like witnessing them as energies that are coming through that you can kind of see separate from yourself. Like I
Right.
become the emotion, like I am depressed instead of being like, no, I'm feeling this like energy that feels this way and separating it from myself. And I liked how you said to think of your inner child or a younger version of yourself experiencing that and how you would respond. Because the
Mm-hmm.
adult version of me responds like in a very shameful way. Like I'm
Mm-hmm.
like the feelings almost perpetuate and get worse because I'm like, what's wrong with me? Why am I feeling this way? And then I'm like ashamed of myself for not feeling like happy and gracious and joyful.
Mm. You want to know something crazy, or I'm curious how this will land for you? When you're showing up as that more ashamed adult
Mhm.
self, do you think that is truly you, or did you learn that from somewhere?
I would think that I learned it from somewhere. It doesn't feel authentic. It feels sad and like not right.
Yeah.
But I'm so used to
Yeah,
kind of getting stuck in it that then I like
totally.
identify with it.
Totally. Right. Because we become these personalities, right? These parts of us, these different energies. We start to believe that that's who we are. We start to believe that these energies, whether it's the shame, the judgment, whatever, is who we are
Mhm.
because we started feeling that way at a young age. Why did we start feeling that way? Well, we learned it from somewhere. Who did we learn it from? Usually the people that we were around in those programmable years of 0 to 7.
Yeah.
So typically we become our parents or whoever we learned it from to our own inner children. And
Mm.
so there's like the two energies happening. Your inner child's feeling the stuff that was never validated in her life. And we're actually being that judgmental whatever to ourselves now because we learned it at a certain age.
Yeah. Ugh, I have some work to do still.
We always will, love. That's the thing.
I
We
know.
always will.
I know. I just think I need to be, just like in general, more like kind to myself. I
Mm,
feel, and I think a lot of people can relate to this, that we're just very critical. And I think a little more compassion and kindness to ourselves goes a long way.
mm-hmm.
Um,
Yeah.
I want to go back to some of your videos and I
Mm-hmm.
want to talk about, I have kind of a guilty pleasure of reading comments on videos because people just, I don't know, I just get such a kick out of the things people say. But
It got crazy in there.
oh my gosh, I don't know how content creators manage that. Luckily for me, I don't get maybe like a comment or two and it's from like my best friend, like, hey girl, like, so I don't know how content creators manage like getting such off the wall or just mean comments or like angry comments. And it's like, but anyway, I did want to bring
Yeah.
up something that I kind of am grappling with, and
Mm,
people sort of brought up in the comments, but in ridiculous ways. So as far as going back again to the dishes, and actually, I wanted to bring up side note really quick. I just started reading this book that I love. It's called More Than Words. Um,
mm,
the Science of Deepening Love and Connection in Any Relationship. And I
Hmm.
thought it was so funny because your video about doing the dishes came to mind when I read this. It says, communication has been sold as the golden ticket to improve relationships, but experts now understand that dialogue is a poor way to address problems of connection, and most
Mm.
relationship issues are problems of connection. We may argue about the dishes, but what we really want to know is, do I matter to you?
Mm.
Does that resonate?
Yeah.
I'm like, that makes so
Yeah.
much sense. It's like, it's not about the dishes. It's about, does this person consider me? Do I matter? Like, so,
Mm-hmm.
but anyway, what I was going to say about the comments was with the dishes. I do definitely agree that I think there's something deeper than the dishes. And it's important for us to recognize that and to, self-regulate, meet the need that's there. And I guess in this instance, if we felt like we didn't matter, you would suggest kind of meeting that inner child and saying, like, you do matter. My question is, at what point, like, is it also okay to be upset that the dishes aren't done? Like,
Mm-hmm.
and like
Mm-hmm.
a comment one girl said, well, this was in regards to another video, but it was like, oh, well, what about just like wanting the dishes to be done? Like, where do we kind of find the balance between self-regulating, meeting our own needs, and not getting up, projecting something, in regards to like having the dishes being done, but then like actually wanting the dishes to be done. Does that make sense?
Yeah, totally. Yeah. Yes. So I can only get so much, right,
Of
into these
course.
90-second videos.
Yeah.
And there's so much context that is not shared. And I try to share as much as I can in my other programs because there's so much in my relationship that is built on a strong foundation where, like, we have the ability to handle things in this way. I know what I teach and will teach to the end of time is that if we have an intense emotional reaction to something, that's in our field, that's not out there.
Yeah.
Wanting to make it about something out there is a way to try to avoid taking ownership and doing what needs to be done to free ourselves.
Yeah.
Because you can still have a conversation about the dishes. I can have a conversation with my partner saying, hey, we agreed on this and you didn't do it, and that's out of integrity for the relationship that we both want to create. What can we do about this? And then have a conversation around that. That's very different than saying, you didn't do it again, like, what the
Yeah.
fuck is wrong? All that kind of thing.
Exactly.
It's all about your energy. So, for my partner and I, we've created a structure to help us both feel really held, where we both do our own morning dishes. I do lunch dishes, he does dinner dishes. Like, boom, that's a necessary thing. So, talking about what's your structure for the relationship, that's absolutely fundamental, because if it's not talked about and there's just expectations on both sides,
Oh my
both
God,
people are
yes.
living in different worlds. You have to realize that you're a team and you need to get on the same page, or talk about why you're not on the same page. If you're choosing to live together, if that's like where you're at, this is a necessary step for a
Yeah.
relationship. You can't go anywhere without that.
Yeah.
Then, whatever happens in terms of triggers are a lot more clear because you have that layout already laid, if that
Yes.
makes sense. But again, I'll always come back to, when we have an intense emotional experience, that's not about anything around us. We like to make it about those things, but it's ours. It's ours to work through.
Absolutely. So kind of a two-part, working on what you can work on and then being able to meet with your partner and find, common ground and a foundation that's going to support both of you. And, if you have a household together, what have you, then that'll help
Yes,
things
exactly.
substantially. Another really popular
Mm-hmm.
video that you have, and this is huge in like the dating world, is about when someone isn't texting you back right away.
Mm-hmm.
And this, I can't even read this without laughing, but it's funny. So you were like self-regulating in the video. A guy said, you were like, oh, I can't wait to like hang out with you. I'm so excited. And he responded with, sounds good. And then you said, ooh, like that doesn't feel so good. Like, where is the sadness coming from? And you met that and kind of, worked through that on your own. And then, the end. And a girl said, it's really amazing the mental gymnastics women have to go through to justify the bare minimum effort. So what? Yeah, like okay, but I'm like, yeah, where is the middle ground? Like, are we completely like invalidating ourselves or like gaslighting ourselves into like just accepting like a bare minimum response? And like you said, we can't fit it all into a 90-second video, and everything's
Mm-hmm.
nuanced, and it's not going to be like everything is going to fit into a box. But I am
Mm-hmm.
wondering, like, where do we find the balance between like expectations or what we'd like and also like dealing with any like anxiousness that we have for our own reasons?
Mm-hmm. Well, this is something that I've been on a journey with because I was so guilty of this for so long.
Yeah.
And now I'm in a relationship with somebody who would never text a single human if he didn't have to. Clearly, I feel really safe and loved in the relationship and I'm nourished in other ways. So that's important to acknowledge.
Yeah.
But I really now pay attention to because I came from the world of if somebody doesn't add an emoji, then they don't care about me. If
Yeah.
somebody doesn't put enough words or enthusiasm, they don't actually like me. That is not the truth.
Yeah.
There are so many people who just don't communicate in the same way, yet still have the same love and care. When we are creating those stories and those meanings about something that's happening in our lives, it's usually because of our own wounding. We're interpreting reality to match the pain that we already feel. So that's where, sure, you can think it's the bare minimum, but do you ever actually feel truly fulfilled and loved, even if the person expresses all of these, expresses in the exact right way for you? I'm going to bet that usually, no matter what, when people are needing that extra perfect love and assurance in the exact way that they need it, it's because there's a hole within them that no matter how hard you try to fill it with stuff outside of you, it doesn't get full. So
Mm-hmm.
that's again where it's like when you can learn how to patch up your own holes, like clear out those trapped emotions, become your own source of fulfillment, people can message you in a certain way and you can actually feel their love even without that stuff.
Yeah.
So again, it's like there's so much context because a lot of the time when we're living with these kind of wounds or like experiences or perceptions or whatever, we attract relationships that make us feel that way anyways. Not until you heal from within do you start to attract better relationships. So it's like a self-perpetuating cycle until we do this work on ourselves.
So you think like attracting things that will present and kind of show us or we're confronted with things that we really need to heal?
Yeah, and that's why like
And
I view triggers as the greatest avenue to my healing rather than blaming people for triggering me.
yeah.
I'm like, thank you. Thank you for pointing me to myself, pointing me to what needs to be healed. Without this, I wouldn't understand my own wounds and how to heal them. But that's not how people usually address their triggers. They're trying to get other people to fix something that they can only fix themselves.
Yeah, that's well said. As far as healing wounds, that, and it sounds like a lot of this kind of goes back to childhood and like the relationship with our caregivers. How much work needs to be done or you think should be done with yourself? And how much do we need to actually heal some of these like within a relationship? Like, what does that look like?
Mm. Mm-hmm. Everybody's journey is going to be different, and you can heal a lot on your own, and you can heal not much on your own at the same time.
Yeah.
Because, I spent a year between my last breakup and my current relationship not going on a single date. I went on one date and then let it go very quickly because I was like, this is what needs to happen. And I healed a lot. Then new things come up that you can only face when you're in relationship with somebody.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm a proponent of like doing as much as you can wherever you're at, right? Like, why wait? The sooner you do it, the sooner you reap the benefits. Like, this is your life. The way that you feel is the way that your life will feel. So why not do as much as you can all the time?
Yeah.
But kind of also trusting the journey. It's like, okay, I'm not broken. I'm on this path. I'm doing what I can. More shit will come up, right? When we get to where we think we need to be, there's just going to be a new place that we need to get to. So, like, let's strap in, enjoy the journey,
Yeah.
you know? So, yeah, that's kind of my take on that.
What was the biggest thing that came up for you in this latest relationship? Aside from him never
Well,
wanting to text.
um, here's the other thing. I learned that he doesn't like to text all day, but he will call me. So that's another thing that, isn't talked about enough, where it's like I'm getting needs fulfilled. It just might be in a different way than I'm used to.
Yeah.
And that's important, right? If you're in a relationship with someone who doesn't talk to you except one time per week, and you don't see them but one time every 3 weeks because that's their choice, but that's not what you want, like, why are you in that relationship? Like, you don't
Yeah.
have to be in that relationship. So again, context always matters.
Yeah.
But with him, I think honestly, it's been so smooth sailing overall because of how much work I did in all of my other relationships in the past several years in depth.
Yeah.
Going through that breakup, learning and healing so much of myself, and ultimately becoming my own best partner first, where it's like I have everything that I need. I don't need as much from my partner. Obviously, secure attachment is still a thing. We are meant to be attached to people. It's not bad to rely on people.
Yeah.
But when we think we can only get it from that one specific person, that's where the issues come up. I don't feel that way from him. I get a very specific, very special love in relationship with him, but I don't need anything from him anymore in that certain way. And that's really softened every single trigger. Like, the biggest challenges that we've had is simply like we're interested in slightly different kinds of personal development work, so we're coming at it from different worlds, so trying to get on the same page of like how we work through things.
Mm-hmm.
There's really not much, to be honest, which is pretty cool.
That's good. Sounds like you found a really good match for you.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I want to be mindful of your time. So I'm just going to ask one last question.
Okay.
So the name of my podcast is Just Live, and kind of the mantra is expand on what serves you, release what doesn't, and just live. So I want to know, currently in your life, what is it that you would like to release, and what is it that you'd like to expand on?
I'm currently working on releasing the conditioned sense of urgency
Mm.
on getting somewhere, growing in my business, working really hard, hustling. I'm really good at that. And I'm trying to learn how to relax a little bit more and trust a little bit more that I'm supported. Expanding is I'm about to start my 2-year program once again that I did over the last 2 years, which blew my world. Focus on somatic healing, awakening, like spiritual practice, and connecting with God or the universe, and um, all this work that I share. And so I really am just committed to expanding and awakening my relationship with what I call God, universe, whatever you resonate with, the God that's within me, the God within everyone around me, the God that infuses the space and nature and everything like that. That's kind of my beacon all the time.
Wonderful. Thank you for sharing. Can
Mm-hmm.
you tell everyone that's listening where they can find you?
Yes, I am Tai Ha Sloan on Instagram and TikTok. That's THAI, like Thailand, HASLOAN. Um, and other than that, that's pretty much where you can find most of my stuff these days. If you are interested in getting a little extra support, I have a monthly membership that just launched for anybody wherever you're at to gain some more tools. You can learn about that on my Instagram as well. And then the Rise program is all over if you're interested in more of a deep dive with this work.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much. I really appreciate it, and I wish you all the best.
Thank you so much, Olivia. I appreciate your time.